This exhibition came about many years ago. We've had it on the books. Members of the community approached the museum around the same time that the commemoration started in the year 2013. There was a lot of research that had to happen. We're a communal museum, so capturing the community's voice is really paramount for us. So we undertook an oral history project where we interviewed about 60 members of the community to understand really what was important to them and what we needed to get across in this exhibition. We also spoke to dozens more just to get artifacts and images. As well, it's a very long and complicated history, so we actually had numerous scholars giving their input locally here in Sydney as well as around the world. It's the first time we've ever really touched upon this topic, so I think we really wanted the story to get out there. It's one that people are unfamiliar with, and we really wanted it to be told. The other hope is to really further a dialogue between Jews and Muslims, and to be able to have some cross-cultural discussions in the future.
My name is Camille Fox. I was born in Egypt, in Alexandria. King Farouk was reigning at the time, and it was a very charmed life. One didn't really feel particularly singled out because everyone was different. It was a very cosmopolitan era, a lot of mixes, Armenians, Greeks, Italians, Jews, Muslims, Christians, and everyone actually celebrated each other's differences together. So it was really a wonderful melting pot. Israel was established in 1948, so that already drew some lines in the sand for people. It started with the Jews attracting attention, if you like, being accused of being dangerous Zionists when they had nothing to do with it, really. But when Nasser took over with the military coup in 1952 and overthrew King Farouk, that's when things changed completely. And we left when I was 6 years old. We went to Israel for 6 years, and then we came to Australia when I was 12 years old. I went back with my husband Tony. We went back 20 years ago now. We went back in 2000. My mother had given me the name of the street where we lived, but I already knew Rue Bolbitin. Then the little man who was ironing, he had an ironing business a few doors further away, came out of his shop and he said, "Madame, this is number 3 now, but it's not. Number 3 used to be across the road," because they had changed the numbers as well. By that time we had attracted a crowd. There were people in balconies across the road watching us, and then I see the iron gate of the building had my grandfather's initials, NM. So I burst into tears and I said to Tony, "This is it, this is the place." And everybody started clapping, everyone from the surrounding buildings. I get choked up when I think of that. And it was just a very emotional moment. And so I started to paint Egypt in the golden era. Well, that era is a bit before my time, but it's my grandparents' time, the 1930s. The way we were was inspired by my grandfather. I have memories of him outside his business in Anfushi. When I used to visit him in the afternoon with my mother, I always found him sitting outside his store with the neighbors, and it was always a very joyful occasion. It was a lot of laughter and banter, and lollies were given to me and a lot of attention, and that's how it was. I'd like people to take away what I put into it, the feeling between the people, the characters, the golden era, the color, the nuance, the feeling of coexistence that I put into my paintings, the feeling of joy of the golden era, a cosmopolitan era that unfortunately has long gone and lives on in people's memories and hopefully in my paintings.
So this showcase here with a collection of items related to the Felis family really encapsulate a whole plethora of ideas around the ideas of the Jewish experience in Arab lands around the Second World War and just after. So the Felis family, they lived in Tripoli, Libya, and they had a small Italian leather goods business, which you can see by the wallet here. And the family was actually very close to the neighbors. They had one that they particularly loved. They used to call her Bella. In 1938, Adolfo was serving in the Italian forces because Italy was in control of Libya at the time. And in this document, it says that Adolfo Felis is kicked out of the Italian army for being Jewish. And next to this document, you can actually see a photograph of Adolfo in his army uniform. After the war, there were some really violent pogroms happening all across Tripoli. And in one day, one of these mobs came down the Felis family street, and they were going to come upon the house, and they had the intention of setting it afire. They had gasoline with them. And this neighbor, who they were very close to, she stood in front of the family's door, and she said that basically, if you want to get to this family, you're going to have to kill her first. And eventually she repelled this angry mob, and they went on in another direction. And I think this story really shows us that when there were neighbors who did stand up for their Jewish brethren, but really in the end it wasn't enough. The Felis family had to leave their home penniless. They had to give up their businesses, and they had to leave, becoming one of the almost 1 million refugees. And they were never able to return to their home. All that is left is this small mezuzah of that life.
I was born in Tehran, the capital of Iran, in December 1942. We had a very large, warm, loving family there on my father's side. My mother's family all lived in Israel at the time. We lived there during the reign of the Shah, which is often considered as the golden age for Iranian Jews. They were very happy there. They were free to do what they did in their usual normal life. Unfortunately, that ended when the Shah was overthrown in 1979 and the Islamic revolution took place and Khomeini came into power. So over the 3,000 years that Jews lived in Iran was interwoven with periods of calm and peace, as well as trauma, persecution. And there was a population of 80,000 living there at the time. From there on, naturally, everyone was fearful. They departed, most of them for the US, some for Israel. When we came to Australia, we were able to bring any possessions that we had. And of course, Dad selected all his favourite rugs, and that was shipped here with silver. And our home was always full of rugs, wall-to-wall rugs, but Persian rugs, Iranian rugs. My father, who was involved in the steel industry, was hoping to continue that, but it didn't transpire. And being a thinker, he felt that he should maybe go into Persian rug business because all his family had been there for generations. It was a small shop where the Edgecliff Centre is now, that site. And then later he moved down the road to corner of Glenmore Road, New South Head Road, which was originally a pub. And it's now a pub with no beer. So all the carpets are there. The rug we see in this exhibition was one of the first rugs that we brought with us from Tehran. It was a favourite one of my parents' one. It's finely woven. They loved the motif, they loved the colours of it, and they had it in their bedroom. It was made in Isfahan, which is a city famous for rug making. It has a very rich cultural and artistic heritage. This exhibition is very important. It's the first of its kind in Australia for a start, and it's a topic that is very much needed to be discussed and shown. Firstly, visually, and also for its historical context. When I can imagine how proud my family would be, my parents and Janet, if they knew this existed.